here. No, I'm just kidding. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So I have headphones in because I was just editing a video. So this video that you're seeing right now is posted on a Saturday, obviously, but the video I was editing is for last Saturday because I haven't posted it yet because this is a Friday. Anyways, today I'm going to be reading True Ghost Story. Okay, well, it's online. I'm not 100% they are true, but I'm not saying that they are not true. We're just going to read some scary, true ghost stories. So you're probably going to be seeing a lot of that on my channel. Ghost stories. Or scary stories. Let's just get right onto the video because I am rambling. This one is called The Figure in Dark Robes. I've told this to a selected few, and while creepiest/scariest is subjective in the content of my life, it truly is the creepiest and scariest unsolved mystery. I was a freshman in high school in my hometown of La Crosse, Wisconsin. I was sleeping over at my friend Tom's house. We were watching a movie in his living room when he suddenly got a phone call. I watched as he listened to what was being said on the other line. I watched as emotion poured over his face as he threw the phone across the room. After moments of crying, he told me that a boy at my school had committed suicide. Now, I knew this boy only through seeing him in the halls. My friend Tom and I didn't go to the same high school, but Tom had gone to middle school with this boy. Apparently, Tom bullied him during those years. He wasn't proud of it, and to be honest, I was pretty surprised because he was a great guy. He had utter remorse. We decided to sneak out and go for a walk. The year was roughly 1990, maybe 1991. We were freshmen in high school. Now, sneaking out was nothing new. We always did it. At the time, we weren't into drugs, alcohol, or partying. We just liked the freedom of walking the streets at night. The discussions were always great. Normally, we'd go walk through the big cemetery that was near my house. It was behind the train tracks that still run through the La Crosse to this day. We loved the danger of the cemetery, the scares. We were kids. It was a rite of passage. As we walked along the train tracks leading to the cemetery, we stopped. To this day, I can't explain why. We'd walked into that cemetery dozens of times, and on scarier nights. For whatever reason, we didn't want to go in there. I don't know if the thought of death on our minds due to my classmate's suicide was a factor. Perhaps, regardless, without really saying anything to each other, we stopped, turned around, and decided to head down a nearby street. Now, in retrospect, I did have to say that throughout this walk, things seemed off. There wasn't a car in sight. This is suburbia. Even walking through the town's main street was odd because there just weren't any cars. Odd. It was roughly after midnight. It was a weekend night. Where was everybody? Perhaps just a strange coincidence? Lastly, there was something in the air. Both Tom and I felt it. We even brought it up. It feels weird tonight. The air, the lights. So we decided to walk down a dead-end street. At the end of the street was a ditch with a simple up, down, and up trail that led to the street that I lived on. Simple enough. Keep in mind, as I get into the horrifying part of the story, that we were in the suburbs. Those weren't old, creepy houses with strange individuals, and the trees were small. It wasn't a brand new development, but it wasn't that old either. So as Tom and I are walking down the street, we're looking down to the road beneath our feet as we talk. I don't remember the exact moment at this particular moment. Perhaps we were talking about the tragedy of that night, but it could just have easily been about Star Wars or Akira. As we approached the dead end, which was a few houses away, Tom and I suddenly stopped. We did so at the same time without saying one word to each other. Our heads slowly turned towards each other, both sensing something. The hair on our arms and backs of our necks standing high. Then our gaze slowly moved forward in unison, slightly to the right. That's when we saw it. About 2 houses away in a virtually barren front yard of suburban home, beside some bushes, was a dark figure. It was someone or something in dark robes. No face, no features at all, just the robe. Now this figure didn't acknowledge us, not yet, and instead walked or moved in a certain way, as if it was walking in circles slowly, without really walking. It held something that was blowing in the wind, and yes, the wind picked up a little bit as well. Another odd element was the light that illuminated it somewhat. There was a street light a few houses up, but it wasn't strong enough to illuminate this figure as it was. Tom and I were frozen. In fact, I'm almost frozen as I write this. It's been a while since I have thought about this night, so there we stood, frozen in fear, staring at this dark figure moving, yet doing so without moving. And it was holding something, or perhaps what was blowing in the wind was more of its robe. I'm not sure. We stared at this thing for I don't know how long, until it stopped and it suddenly looked up at us, as if finally alarmed by our presence. That was enough for us. We ran away as fast as we could. We cut through a side street that was led to us to a parallel street towards my neighborhood. What is that? My neighbors. This street led to a slight hill. As we rounded the corner and started running up the hill in panic, we stopped, because on top of that hill we saw another dark figure with its arms raised. We turned around and ran away in the direction of Tom's house, which at this distance was at least 5 miles away. We ran. Time stood still. The next thing I remember, we're lying in the middle of the courtyard of some other neighborhood that we'd never been in, gasping for breath. We sat up and without saying a word, we walked in silence back to his house. The air felt normal again. I'm just gonna eat a snack while my neighbors stop talking. We fell asleep in this house. I woke up that morning and went home. A few days later, I rode my bike to the location. Perhaps it was shadow play? Perhaps there was a certain tree or bush or maybe a for sale sign or something that made it look like there was something else there. Nothing. It was an open yard. Tom and I didn't speak of that night for a long time. Years later, when I brought it up, he replied, "Yeah, what the hell was that?" as if no time had passed. What was it? I have no idea. We hadn't taken any drugs. We hadn't been drinking alcohol. I often wonder if it could have been a haunting, a specter, a ghost, etc. Maybe it was an alien abduction or sighting. We saw no craft, but there was that unexplained light. Or maybe it was some other kids messing with us. But how could they have known we were coming? How could they have been so prepared? I just don't know. That was roughly 24 years ago, give or take. And yes, this is a true story. Sadly, my best friend Tom passed suddenly a few months ago. I thought of this night during his funeral. I thought of returning to that site. I thought of the odd coincidence of unexpected and surprising death, just like my classmate that night. Is there a connection? Were we seeing some future fate for one of us, which sadly fell upon my best friend Tom? Was this all some dual hallucination? In my mind, no way. It haunts me at times. That story was longer than I expected it to be. But that's honestly extremely scary. And the fact that this friend passed away is extremely sad. So we're just gonna read one more because that story was really long. Or maybe 2 more. I don't know. I say things and I don't mean it. So, okay, we're gonna read 2 more because, yeah, 2 more. So this one is called The Little Boy with No Eyes. One night when I was 10, I was asleep in my bed and was woken up by my bedroom door opening, then someone sitting on my bed. I felt the graze on my leg and the bed sink as they sat. Thinking it was my mom having something to tell me, I opened my eyes only to see a pale, eyeless, just black, empty sockets boy who seemed to be my age sitting at the foot of my bed with his legs crossed, staring at me, or facing my direction since he had no eyes. He then reached his hand towards me and he was holding what looked like a little black box. I was freaked out, but as I reached to grab it, he hesitantly pulled back. I reached out further for it and said, "Give it." As I did so, I blinked, and by the time I reopened my eyes, he was gone. The spot of the bed where he was sitting lifted back into place, but the imprint of someone sitting there was still present. I told my mom in the morning, and she was slightly freaked, but assured me I was just dreaming. Fast forward 5 years, I had my girlfriend over to do homework. After homework, she took a nap while she waited for her parents to pick her up. When they arrived, I tried waking her to let her know. I nudged her and she opened her eyes so sudden, already looking in the direction of the corner of my room where the walls met the ceiling, lifting her finger and pointed. And as fast as she woke, she fell asleep again. I attempted to wake her again. She came to full consciousness, and I asked her what the hell that was about, and explained what she did. She said, "Oh, I thought I was dreaming, but up on the wall I saw a little boy with no eyes just there, in a Spider-Man pose staring at me." Fast forward another 5 years, still with the same girlfriend, and by this time we had a 2-year-old daughter. We were living in my old bedroom at my parents' house. My daughter would wake up at the same time every night and start talking. For a while, we thought it was a normal baby thing until I noticed it was almost the same conversation every night. I playfully asked her one night who she was talking to every night. She responded, "A little boy. He talks to me. He's nice. He's lost and he's looking for his mommy." I told my mom what happened the next morning, and before I got to tell her what I thought, she said, "I remember when that happened to you, then your girlfriend. I have no idea what that is." By then, neither my girlfriend or I have seen the little boy after our first encounter, but my daughter continued her nightly conversations until we got our own place later that year. I was thinking of like Slender Man, but Slender Man doesn't have a face at all. The boy just didn't have eyes. I actually am going to read another story because this one's really short. So this one is called The Whispers. This is a story I do not often tell. I promise sincerely that this has scarred me for life, and although I have looked into psychological explanations for what I heard and natural explanations for what occurred, they remain unsatisfactory. When I was a child, I was scared of the dark. I swore to my mother I heard voices in it. They were not evil, but they were not familiar, and so they scared me. It was not uncommon in the middle of the night for me to wake up and hear whispers, as I would call them when asking my mom. She figured they were just bumps in the night and typical kids' nightmare material. I tried often to explain to her that it was more than that they sounded different from one another the way people's voices do. On some nights, I would get so scared from these whispers that I would sleep in my mom's bed with her. It was an added bonus that the bathroom was directly outside of her bedroom door for my late night tinkles. I should add at this point that when walking out into the hallway to go to the bathroom, you look directly down the stairs that would lead you into the living room on the first floor, as my mom's bedroom was on the second floor. On one such night around Christmas, I awoke and felt the need to relieve myself. I walked out from the door and distinctly heard the phrase, "Look!" and to my astonishment, a red light, almost like a spotlight, was cast upon the wall at the very bottom of the stairs. The light had no other source. It was by itself, and I was transfixed by it. Being a little kid, and it only being a few days from Christmas, I knew what this light was. It was Santa. How else could he get into the house to know I was being a good boy? I was so excited. I began walking down to the stairs to greet him, picking up my pace after the second step as it began to creep off the wall and fade into darkness in my living room. That's when I heard it. A very strong masculine voice, different from the first. Not at all like my father's, not to say he isn't masculine, it was just distinctly different. It said, "Stop, right now, go back up those stairs." I listened, turned around, and what happened next, I'm not so sure I would believe if someone had told me the same story. After reaching the top of the stairs, I heard a very loud crash that sent me running back to my mother's bed, where I jumped straight under the covers and stayed there the whole night. I would get claustrophobic, I'd suffocate. When we awoke the next morning, the poinsettia lights, little Christmas flowers lights that glowed red, my mother had put on the railing down the stairs were pulled straight down from what seemed like a forceful tear, laying in a single pile. The dry sink in my living room had fallen from the wall. My mother could not explain it. My father was worried we'd have been the victims of a home invasion. My sister was crying. There was nothing missing. Nobody had broken in. There did not seem to be any reason this had happened. And then I saw it, and I kept quiet about it because I was so afraid that I could not force words out of my mouth. There, on the edge of the wooden dry sink which had been facing up, were 3 indentations where the finish on the wood had been torn, almost as if in a forceful grip. Something down there had grabbed it and threw it down. That was what the bang was. I was mortified. After that day, I never heard a single voice again. I do not like to imagine what was waiting downstairs for me that night. Oh my god! Oh my god. Alright guys, if you want me to read more scary stories, I will gladly do that for you, but you just have to comment down in the comments below. And always, while you're down there, you should subscribe and give this video a like and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a video when I post.
Shawty, can I get your digits? Maybe we can kick it. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, babe, think I know what's next. Double tap and follow that shit.
Water break.